자, 이어서 첫 번째 세션 MCI 그룹 오스카 세르잘레스 최고 전략 책임자님의 강연 영상으로 시작해 보도록 하겠습니다. 코로나 팬데믹 이후 마이스 산업 전망 함께 만나보도록 하겠습니다. 박수로 청해 보겠습니다.
Hi everyone. My name is Oscar Cerezales and I'm Chief Strategy Officer of MCI Group. And I'm here today to assess, reflect, think with all of you about this new norm, the prospects of the mice industry after the pandemic. And I would like to start thinking in our framework, 6 different topics that we'll cover today. First, the context, the global context of where we're coming from and where we're heading to. Secondly, we're going to discuss a little bit the industry impact of the pandemic. We'll analyze also the different challenges. We will think and again learn from high-performing organizations. And then, just going to the end, we'll think about focus, what should be our key priorities, and we will finish with the big opportunities that lie ahead. So let's start with the global context. COVID, I think, is becoming not only a buzzword, but the world we're living in, right? But what's COVID? If you ask a statistician, she would tell you that that's a black swan kind of event. COVID is a black swan event, but there are also black swans of events. Think about the 9/11 in New York. Think about how the World War I started. Think about the bubble.com that burst 2 decades ago, or the latest financial crash. What do they have in common? What do they have in common is this, right? These are extreme outliers events. Second, they have a huge, also disproportionate, global impact, ripple effects. And also, in hindsight, all of them, or some of them, they look like pretty obvious that was about to happen. Anyway, the impact of those events in any industry have commonalities. Number one, the players of any industry, they're in need of hyper flexibility and hyper adaptability. And second, the future watch, predictions, the future analysis, they don't work anymore. In short, the forecasting tools that we have been all using, they're not working. Why? Because we are dealing with a VUCA kind of phenomenon or market. What means is full of inconsistencies, uncertainty, volatility. And the VUCA says is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. In other words, it's a difficult market. It's a tough market. We will need to rethink probably everything. Now, what has been the impact, or what is the impact in our industry of this black swan event? Well, I would say that yesterday, like a few months ago, before COVID, think about 2018 for example, our ecosystem was fixed, was crystal clear, right? The market was highly predictable. And also, the metrics of success were very clear. Think in a destination, whether it's economic impact, ranking of social transformation, whether it's number of events, or delegates, or room nights, everything was clear. What about today? In a post-COVID world, the reality is that the ecosystem is a different one. There's slightly different players and substitutes, and there are different roles and different rules of engagement. And the financial margins are also different because of the new norm, right? Secondly, the market has changed. Financially, we used to be in a market which was all about low, mid kind of volume by high margins. But now, because of hybrid, because of digital, the volume of events is huge. We're talking about millions, if not billions of events. But margins are shorter. And finally, new metrics. How do you analyze, how do you track success in a different world with a different ecosystem? Well, the metrics the benchmarks, the rankings are changing. Now, what are the key challenges that are coming out of our industry because of the impact in this VUCA world? The problem number one, the challenge number one, and of course with every challenge we might have an opportunity, are uncertainties. Let's go through the key uncertainties. These four here, they are kind of obvious uncertainties in our market. Depending on the government support that we're having in our markets, we'll have a better or we'll have a challenging way of dealing with the current reality. Business models are changing because of the new norm, right? Also, the economic trends are kind of challenges. Whether it's an economic downturn, whether it is a U-shaped recovery, whether it is a W-shape, whether it's a hockey stick, everything is impacting the industry. And finally, talent acquisition. Because of the new market, we need new skills. But this is kind of obvious. What are the less obvious? Number one, new consumption habits. Think about how members of an association, users or customers of corporations, they buy goods, they buy media, they buy education. How do they engage with associations or corporations is changing. Therefore, events are changing, formats are changing, strategy is changing. Also, as I previously said, we have a new events ecosystem with, again, new players, new roles, and new rules, and of course new financial margins. And as I also said, there's new success metrics, and we'll end with new organizational design. The way that your organization, the way your clients' organizations are designed, they're changing. Why? We're back to the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. They need to be hyper flexible. They do have a lot of remote working. The organizational design has changed. Therefore, the way they meet or the way they design their own events have changed. Problem number two, engagement or lack of engagement. We're moving towards a world which obviously we're adding more and more and more digital and hybrid events. And the problem there is engagement. But let's go deep into one of our customers, right? Let's think about associations, for example. If you think about an association normally is structured in a centralized or as it best in a decentralized way with a lot of nodes. Corporates, they try, sometimes succeed, sometimes not, to be decentralized or distributed. How they do this? They think in their internal and external audiences, those that they need to engage, whether it's in a hybrid format, digitally, with events, or using other channels, right? Now, if you think about associations again, what we will see is that the level of engagement of all members are different. I'm going to share with you a study, the Global Engagement Index. We went through a number of different associations. And what we found is that we can split the engagement among members in 5 different types. Passive, few members. Open, they're interested, but limited usage. Active, 29%. Yeah, they engage, but very selectively. They might go to that conference. They might download a paper, but that's all. Then you got the loyals, 31%. Repeat interaction, they're quite interactive, but that's all. Only 8% is what we call multiplier. So who are those 8%? The multipliers, the evangelists, those that will go out there and tell to their peers, hey, come with me, become a member of this association. Now, of course, associations, they're changing the way they meet because they need more multipliers. But also, think about corporates. At the end of the day, the building community, art, and science of create a community, grow a community, and engage a community of users, or maybe employees, or potential customers, they need multipliers. How you do that? Increase in engagement. And that's a key challenge in our industry, because this is not just about technology, it's also about a strategy and formats, and brain power affected that. What's the problem number 3? As I previously said, benchmarks. What are the new benchmarks? Here, in a very simplistic view, you have different channels. And if you're a marketeer, or if you're heading of any organization, you have multiple ways you spend your marketing dollars to reach out your, again, users, customers, members, etc. You may use email or websites or social media or events, conferences, etc. What's the key thing here? If you go on the right hand side, what you will see is that events and conferences and even webinars, they have a very low ability to track return on investment. What does this mean? That means that, of course, events and conferences are one of the best tools in the marketing arsenal. The return on investment is positive, but the ability to track, it's complicated. That's why marketeers are spending more and more money in marketing, but they're fragmenting the spend in different channels. So we must think in events just as one of the channels, but they're connected to all of the channels. And marketeers are collecting data on real time, and that's what they call the omni-channel. Problem number 4, the lack of platforms. Before COVID, a lot of organizations have created their events in a very kind of silo way. Today, there are more and more organizations, whether corporates, associations, and even governments, they're creating platforms. That means that it's not only an event, which is a platform of different activities where you keep your engagement with your communities and your audiences. Let me give you one example. One brand that you will know, TED. TED is not just an event. You got TED.com, you got the TED conference, you got the TED University, you get the TED at YouTube, you get a lot of TED initiatives. They're all interconnected. Everything is intertwined. That's what we call a platform. And as a platform, we can start reusing content. We can start reusing different information for different channels. And here is where we find exponential growth, potentially, and ripple effects. So more and more organizations, they're coming to the conclusion that what they need is kind of a platform. Now, let's think if you're a hotel, or a convention center, or a convention bureau, or a PCO, or a DMC. How can you create, add value to your clients that they want to create a platform? The problem number 5 is when you try to create a platform, when you try to play with the omni-channel, when you try to think about how to deal with this complexity, a lot of players, they come up with technology. Technology as the solving pill for this headache. And that's a big trap. In reality, technology is an enabler. But what's going to save, what's going to increase engagement, going to change the way we think is a strategy. And I'm bringing just an example. This is the way where we, for example, in our company, we design events. And you will see that technology is just not the first, not the second, not even the third or the fourth step when designing an event. We start with the visioning, together with customers designing the goals of the events, the goals of the audience and the goals of the organizer. Then we move to the value creation. How is the value created, perceived from the members, the audiences, in a face-to-face, hybrid or digital mode, depending on the format we're looking for. Then we move into one of the most complex areas, which is the design of the business model of the event. Then we move to behavioral analysis. Different audiences, different profiles, different ways of engagement, different ways of learning. Then, and only by then, we move to design. We design the experience. And it's only then when we start thinking about technology. What's the best platform to use, what's the best technology for engagement, what's the best technology for this and that. And only back then we execute, and then we start again with iteration, loops, and learning. So in a way, technology is important. Absolutely, it's not that expensive, but the problem is that eventually we all will get access to the same technology. What's going to make you different is the thinking process, the strategy. A methodology like this, there are other methodologies. That's what's going to change the way we engage and we meet. So, with all that said, can we reflect on high-performing organizations? What do they do in order to achieve success? Are there any learnings out there? Well, let me give you a corporate example. Probably you know most of them. All those organizations are, I would say, best in class when it comes to events, best in class when it comes to marketing, and as organizations in general, high-performing organizations. What do they have in common? What do they have in common? And you can just Google and search for examples, is that they are, again, mastering the art and science of community building. They can visualize the networks, whether, again, we're talking about users or members, customers, potential customers. They can profile everything. They can customize education. They can customize content. They know who's connecting with each other. They know what do we like. They know how to play with this. Now, also, because of that, they're really, really good in terms of data collection and transforming the data into insights. Where? At the touch points. They use the right technology and the right strategy to understand each of the touch points, collect information, and act whenever or whatever there are frictions. So again, think about that. If you are designing an event or you are hosting an event, how can you help your customer in visualizing all these different touch points and collect information and act upon you get information? We're getting to the end now. So with all that said, where we should be focusing, right, our efforts? Well, if I were you, I would go directly to the business model. Business model is what would change everything. You need to start with the value. The value that you will capture and you will deliver for your customer, right? This is the core of a business model. This is the core piece, right? And you need to think about the value before COVID and the new value that your customers need. But also, around the value, there are other elements. First, solutions. You need a new way of packaging or servicing or showing your service portfolio. You also need new channels because there are more channels than ever. Think about, before COVID and post-COVID, the channels to reach your customers, your audiences. Think about talent. You need more and more talents from other industries. If you think about, for example, a PCO or a DMC, they have more in common with a media company than with a traditional association kind of outsourcing company. So think about copywriters, think about technology people, think about data scientists, think about neuromarketeers. You need all these new skills with you, whether it is in-house, whether it is outsourced, or whether it's a JV. Also think about, as I said, community building. The art and science, the methodologies, the frameworks of community building. Because the way you are creating a community, the way you are engaging, building, tracking, and monetizing will drive your success. Also, you might think in developing or creating a moat around your business model, a barrier against competitors and against substitutes. Why? Because in a world which is increasingly digital, competition is changing, and there are more competitors than ever, everywhere. Then think about markets. You probably need to think in new markets, adjacent markets, different customers. And of course, different channels, different solutions, different talents, different ways of building community. Of course, for all of that, you need new partners, new joint ventures, maybe new acquisitions, maybe new marketing alliances, just new partnerships to come up with new solutions for new clients through new channels. And finally, you will need to rethink your financial formula. You probably, because of all these inconsistencies and this volatility, you need to diversify your revenue streams, and also you need to have a high portion of variable costing in order to be really, really flexible. In short, my recommendation to you, go back to your office, take those 9 different boxes and write down the before COVID and what you're going to do after COVID. And in short, again, if you can answer to the 9 boxes, here you have your business model and you can start innovating. So, with all that said, where is the opportunity? I would like to go back to my first slide. The opportunity lies ahead here in the comprehension of this holistic approach on think about the global context. The black swan, what do they have in common? Reflect on the industry impact of this black swan and also assess the challenges of our industry. Again, whether you see an opportunity, whether you see a threat. Also, learn from high-performing organizations, whether they are all those global organizations that just share with you, or could be local, could be national. Think and learn. And then focus. You need a laser focus in times like this. And finally, pick the opportunity and go after them. With all that, thank you very much. Think, reflect, and assess the current situation. Tough, but a lot of opportunities lying ahead. Thank you.